Alan gripped the control panel of his spacecraft, the Stellar Envoy, as it descended through the swirling azure atmosphere of Nudia. His heart raced, a mix of excitement and apprehension coursing through his veins. This was it, first contact with an alien civilization, and he, a diplomat from Earth's most isolated colony, had been chosen for this monumental task. The ship's computer chimed. Atmospheric entry complete, preparing for landing. Alan took a deep breath, straightening his crisp uniform. Years of training had led to this moment, yet nothing could have truly prepared him for what awaited. The Stellar Envoy touched down with a gentle thud on a landing pad surrounded by towering crystalline structures that sparkled in the alien sunlight. Alan activated the external cameras, eager for his first glimpse of Nudian civilization. His jaw dropped. "What in the name of—" he muttered, blinking rapidly as if to clear his vision. A delegation of Nudians approached the ship, their blue skin glistening in the sun. But it wasn't their alien appearance that shocked Alan. It was their complete and utter lack of clothing. "This has to be a mistake," he said to himself, frantically checking his cultural briefing files. Nothing in his preparation had mentioned this. "Computer, initiate emergency protocol Alpha 3. There must be some atmospheric contaminant affecting my perception." "Negative," the computer replied. "All systems nominal. External environment safe for human exposure." Alan groaned, realizing he'd have to face this head-on. With trembling hands, he initiated the airlock sequence and stepped out onto Nudian soil. The alien delegation halted a respectful distance away. Alan's gaze darted nervously from face to face, desperately trying to maintain eye contact and not let his eyes wander. One Nudian stepped forward, a female, Alan presumed, with delicate features and a lithe, athletic build. Her skin was a deeper shade of blue than the others, almost sapphire, with intricate patterns swirling across her body. "Greetings, Ambassador Alan," she said, her voice melodious and accented. "I am Rhea, xenobiologist and your liaison to Nudian society. Welcome to our world." Alan swallowed hard, fighting to keep his composure. Thank you, Rhea. I'm honored to be here as Earth's representative." Rhea tilted her head, a curious expression on her face. "Is something amiss, Ambassador? Your vital signs indicate distress." Alan stammered, feeling his face flush. "I apologize, but I wasn't prepared for— that is to say, on Earth we typically wear—" Understanding dawned in Rhea's eyes. "Ah, of course, your coverings. We've studied this aspect of human culture. Does our natural state cause you discomfort?" Alan nodded stiffly. "I mean no offense, but yes, it's quite surprising." Rhea's lips curved into a smile. "Fascinating. Perhaps you'd be more at ease if you removed your own coverings. We wouldn't want you to feel out of place." Alan's eyes widened in panic. "That won't be necessary. I mean, I'm fine, really. Let's just proceed with the welcoming ceremony." Rhea exchanged glances with the other Nudians, a ripple of what sounded like laughter passing through the group. "As you wish, Ambassador. Though I must warn you, your attire may be seen as provocative by some of our more conservative citizens." Alan blinked, trying to process this information. "Provocative? But I'm fully clothed." "Exactly," Rhea said with a wink. "All those secrets hidden away, quite tantalizing to the Nudian mind. But come, let us show you to your quarters. We have much to discuss." As they walked towards the gleaming city, Alan couldn't help but notice the stares and whispers from passing Nudians. He felt like a circus attraction, fully dressed among a sea of blue, naked bodies. "So, Ambassador," Rhea said, falling into step beside him. "Tell me about your home colony. I'm eager to learn more about your—" What was the term? Conservative culture? Alan cleared his throat. "Well, New Puritan was founded by those seeking a simpler way of life, away from what they saw as the moral decay of Earth." Rhea's eyes sparkled with interest. "How intriguing, and what constitutes moral decay in your society?" "Oh, Alan said, waving a hand vaguely. "Loose behavior, immodesty, that sort of thing." A mischievous grin spread across Rhea's face. "I see. And how does one define loose behavior on New Puritan? Is it perhaps showing an ankle?" Alan couldn't help but chuckle despite his discomfort. Not quite that extreme, but public nudity would definitely qualify. "How terribly restrictive," Rhea mused. "Don't you find all those layers suffocating? Wouldn't you like to feel the breeze on your skin, Ambassador?" Alan tugged at his collar, which suddenly felt very tight. "I assure you I'm quite comfortable as I am." They reached a towering structure that seemed to be made of living crystal. Rhea led Alan inside, where the temperature was noticeably cooler. "These will be your quarters during your stay," she explained, gesturing to a spacious suite. "I hope you'll find them adequate." Alan looked around, relieved to see furnishings that seemed relatively normal by human standards. "It's lovely, thank you." Rhea moved closer, her eyes roaming over Alan's uniformed body with unconcealed curiosity. "I must admit, Ambassador, I find your species fascinating. All those different textures and colors you wrap yourselves in." "May I?" Before Alan could react, Rhea reached out and ran a hand down the sleeve of his uniform. He jerked back, startled by the intimate contact. "I'm sorry," Rhea exclaimed, looking genuinely contrite. "Have I violated a taboo? Is touching clothing forbidden?" Alan took a deep breath, trying to calm his racing heart. "No, it's not forbidden exactly. It's just on Earth. We have different ideas about personal space." Rhea's face lit up with understanding. "Ah, of course. How thoughtless of me. Please educate me on the proper protocols. How does one initiate physical contact in your culture, for scientific purposes, of course?" Alan felt his face growing hot again. "Well, typically, we start with a handshake when meeting someone for the first time." "A handshake?" Rhea repeated, testing the word. "Show me this ritual, please." Hesitantly, Alan extended his hand. Rhea studied it for a moment before grasping it firmly in her own. The touch of her warm, silky smooth skin sent an unexpected jolt through Alan's body. "Fascinating," Rhea murmured, her fingers exploring the contours of Alan's hand. "And this is considered an acceptable form of greeting between strangers." Alan nodded, acutely aware that the handshake had lasted far longer than was customary. "Yes, though usually it's briefer." Rhea reluctantly released his hand. "I see. And for closer acquaintances, how do they express affection or attraction?" Alan coughed, caught off guard by the directness of her question. "That's, a bit more complicated. It depends on the relationship and the individuals involved." A sly smile played at the corners of Rhea's mouth. "I look forward to learning more about these intricacies, Ambassador. Perhaps you could provide some hands-on demonstrations during your stay." Before Alan could formulate a response, a chime sounded throughout the room. "Ah," Rhea said, "that's the signal for the welcome feast. Shall we?" She gestured towards the door. Alan nodded, grateful for the interruption. As they made their way to the banquet hall, he couldn't shake the feeling that this mission was going to be far more challenging and potentially dangerous than he'd ever imagined. The banquet hall was a sight to behold, its walls shimmering with bioluminescent patterns that pulsed in rhythm with soft, alien music. Dozens of Nudians milled about, engaged in animated conversation. Alan felt their curious gazes upon him as he entered with Rhea. "Ambassador Alan!" a deep voice boomed. A tall, muscular Nudian with elaborate markings approached them. "I am Zorn, Chief Counselor of Nudia. We are honored by your presence." Alan bowed slightly, keeping his eyes firmly fixed on Zorn's face. "The honor is mine, Chief Counselor. I look forward to fostering a strong relationship between our peoples." Zorn's lips curved into what Alan hoped was a smile. "Indeed, though I must say, your current state of dress is rather provocative. Are you certain you wouldn't be more comfortable disrobing?" Alan felt a bead of sweat trickle down his back. "I appreciate your concern, but I assure you, this is how we typically present ourselves in formal situations on Earth." Zorn exchanged a glance with Rhea. "How terribly constraining. But we respect your customs, strange as they may seem. Come, let us feast." As they moved towards the banquet table, Alan couldn't help but notice the array of unfamiliar foods. Vibrant fruits in impossible shapes, pulsating jellies, and what appeared to be live, squirming creatures filled the platters. "Is something wrong, Ambassador?" Rhea asked, noticing his hesitation. "Are you not hungry after your long journey?" Alan forced a smile. "Just taking in the variety. It all looks interesting." Rhea beamed. "Oh, you must try the Glovax." She scooped up a writhing, tentacled thing and held it out to Alan. "It's considered a delicacy. The trick is to swallow it whole while it's still alive. The sensation as it wriggles down your throat is quite exquisite." Alan blanched, fighting the urge to gag. "That's very kind of you, but perhaps something a bit less lively to start." Rhea laughed, a melodious sound that sent an unexpected shiver down Alan's spine. "Of course, how inconsiderate of me. Let's begin with something simpler." She selected a piece of fruit that resembled a sparkling purple starfish. "This is a stellar bloom. Perfectly safe for human consumption, I assure you." Cautiously, Alan accepted the fruit and took a small bite. His eyes widened in surprise as an explosion of flavors danced across his tongue. Sweet, tangy, with a hint of something utterly alien yet delightful. "This is amazing," he exclaimed, taking another bite. Rhea watched him with evident pleasure. "I'm so glad you enjoy it. You know, Ambassador, I believe this mission will be a wonderful opportunity for cultural exchange. There's so much we can learn from each other." As the evening progressed, Alan found himself relaxing slightly, engaged in conversations with various Nudian dignitaries. The initial shock of their nudity began to fade, though he still had to consciously remind himself to maintain eye contact. "Tell me, Ambassador," Rhea said as they stood near a window overlooking the glittering Nudian cityscape, "what do you think of our world so far?" Alan considered for a moment. "It's beautiful, truly. Your technology, your architecture, it's all so advanced, yet in harmony with nature. I admit, I'm impressed." Rhea's eyes sparkled. "I'm glad to hear it. And what of our people? Have we managed to put you at ease despite our cultural differences?" "You've all been very welcoming," Alan said diplomatically. "It's just going to take some getting used to, I suppose." Rhea moved closer, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "You know, Ambassador, if you're curious about our way of life, I'd be more than happy to give you a private tour of the city, away from prying eyes, where you might feel more comfortable experimenting." Alan felt his heart rate spike. That's very kind of you, but I'm not sure that would be appropriate given my position." Rhea's laugh was like tinkling crystals. "Oh, Ambassador, You're adorable when you're flustered. Don't worry, I won't push you out of your comfort zone too quickly." As Alan struggled to formulate a response, a commotion near the entrance caught their attention. A group of Nudians had entered, their bodies painted with bold, angry-looking patterns. "Oh dear," Rhea murmured, her expression growing serious. "It seems the purists have decided to crash our little party." "Purists?" Alan asked, sensing trouble. "A conservative faction that opposes contact with other species," Rhea explained quickly. "They believe outsiders will corrupt our way of life." The leader of the group, a tall Nudian with fierce red markings, pointed at Alan. "Behold," he shouted, "the corruption has already begun. This alien flaunts his coverings, mocking our sacred traditions." Alan felt all eyes in the room turn to him. He swallowed hard, realizing that his mission had just become far more complicated than he could have ever imagined. The banquet hall erupted into chaos. Nudians shouted over each other, some defending Alan's presence, others calling for his immediate expulsion. Alan stood frozen, acutely aware of his clothing, which now felt like a garish costume in a sea of blue skin. Rhea stepped in front of him protectively. "Calm yourselves," she shouted, her voice carrying a surprising authority. "Ambassador Alan is our guest. Your behavior shames us all." The purist leader sneered. "And you, Rhea, have you forgotten our ways so quickly, consorting with this clothed abomination?" Alan felt a surge of anger at the insult. Without thinking, he stepped forward. "I mean no disrespect to your culture," he said, his voice steady despite his racing heart. "I'm here to learn and to foster understanding between our peoples." The purist leader's eyes narrowed. "Understanding? We understand enough. Your kind brings nothing but corruption and decay. Leave now, before we force you to." Zorn's deep voice cut through the tension. "Enough. This is not how we treat guests, regardless of personal feelings. Kraz, you and your followers will leave immediately or face the consequences." The purist leader, Kraz, glared at Zorn, then at Alan. "This isn't over, alien," he spat, before turning on his heel and storming out, his followers close behind. As the door slammed shut, an uncomfortable silence fell over the room. Alan felt the weight of every stare, a mix of curiosity, sympathy, and lingering hostility. Rhea touched his arm gently. "Are you all right, Ambassador?" Alan nodded, his mind reeling. I think so. I'm sorry for causing such a disruption." Zorn approached, his expression grave. "You have nothing to apologize for, Ambassador. It is we who should be ashamed. Please do not judge all of Nudia by the actions of a misguided few." "Of course not," Alan said, forcing a smile. "Every society has its extremists." Rhea's eyes lit up. "Indeed. In fact, this could be an excellent opportunity for cultural exchange. Ambassador, would you be willing to share some insights on how Earth deals with ideological conflicts?" Alan blinked, caught off guard by her enthusiasm. "I suppose I could, though I'm not sure our methods would translate well to your society." Zorn nodded approvingly. "An excellent suggestion, Rhea. Perhaps we could arrange a series of lectures. It would help dispel some of the misconceptions about humans." And so, almost before he knew what was happening, Alan found himself agreeing to an expanded mission. No longer just a diplomat, he was now apparently an expert on Earth culture and conflict resolution. As the party began to disperse, Rhea linked her arm through Alan's, sending a jolt of awareness through him. "Come, Ambassador. You've had quite the eventful first day. Let me escort you back to your quarters." The walk back was mercifully uneventful, though Alan couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. When they reached his door, he turned to thank Rhea. I appreciate your support back there, he said. I'm not sure what would have happened if you hadn't stepped in. Rhea's smile was warm. It was my pleasure, Alan. May I call you Alan? I feel we've moved beyond mere formalities after facing an angry mob together. Alan chuckled. Alan is fine. And what should I call you? Just Rhea, she said, her eyes twinkling, though you're welcome to add any affectionate Earth terms you see fit. Alan felt his face heat up. I'll keep that in mind. Good night, Rhea. As he entered his quarters, Alan's mind was a whirlwind of thoughts and emotions. He collapsed onto the bed, staring up at the ceiling, which seemed to shimmer with faint, soothing patterns. What have I gotten myself into? He muttered. The next few weeks passed in a blur of activity. Alan threw himself into his new role, giving lectures on Earth history, culture, and diplomacy. To his surprise, he found the Nudians to be attentive and enthusiastic students, peppered him with questions that range from insightful to awkwardly personal. But why would you hide your reproductive organs? One elderly Nudian asked during a session on Earth fashion. Are they not a source of pride? Alan coughed, feeling his face flush for what felt like the 100th time since his arrival. It's complicated. On Earth, we have different ideas about privacy and modesty. Rhea, who had taken to attending all of Alan's lectures, chimed in. Fascinating. So, clothing serves as a form of psychological barrier as well as physical protection. Alan nodded, grateful for her intervention. Exactly. It's a way of controlling how much of ourselves we reveal to others, both literally and figuratively. As the days went by, Alan found himself growing more comfortable with Nudian society. The constant nudity, while still somewhat jarring, no longer sent him into a panic. He even caught himself admiring the intricate patterns and hues of Nudian skin, marveling at the way they seemed to shift and change with mood and environment. Rhea, true to her word, had taken it upon herself to be Alan's personal guide to all things Nudian. Their time together extended far beyond official duties, with Rhea dragging Alan to various cultural events, scenic viewpoints, and what she called essential Nudian experiences. One such experience found them atop a cliff overlooking a vast, purple ocean. The three suns of Nudia were setting, painting the sky in a riot of colors Alan had never imagined possible. It's breathtaking, Alan murmured, genuinely awestruck. Rhea beamed at him. I'm so glad you appreciate it. You know, Alan, you've made remarkable progress in understanding our ways, but there's still one crucial aspect of Nudian culture you haven't fully embraced. Alan turned to her, raising an eyebrow. Oh? And what's that? With a mischievous grin, Rhea gestured to his clothing. You're still hiding behind those barriers. Don't you want to truly experience Nudia as we do? Alan felt his heart rate spike. Rhea, I'm not sure I'm ready for that. Rhea's expression softened. I understand, but consider this. Our openness isn't just about our bodies. It's a reflection of our minds and spirits. We hide nothing from each other, physically or emotionally. As if to demonstrate, Rhea closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Suddenly, Alan felt something, a warmth, a presence in his mind that wasn't his own. His eyes widened as he realized he was sensing Rhea's emotions, her excitement, her curiosity, and something deeper, warmer, directed at him. How? Alan gasped, staggering slightly. Rhea opened her eyes, smiling gently. We are all connected, Alan. Our minds can touch just as our bodies can. This is the true intimacy of Nudian society. Alan's mind reeled with the implications. You're telepaths? All of you? To varying degrees, Rhea explained. Some are stronger than others, but all Nudians have the capacity for mental and emotional connection. And you think I could learn this? Alan asked, both terrified and intrigued by the possibility. Rhea nodded enthusiastically. I've sensed the potential in you from the beginning. With practice, I believe you could develop quite strong abilities. Over the next few weeks, Alan found himself diving deeper into Nudian culture than he ever thought possible. Under Rhea's guidance, he began to explore the basics of Nudian telepathy and empathy. The process was frustrating at first. Alan would sit for hours, trying to open his mind as Rhea instructed, feeling foolish and increasingly irritated. I don't think this is working, he grumbled one day, after a particularly unsuccessful session. Maybe humans just aren't capable of this. Rhea's patience seemed infinite. You're trying too hard, Alan. Relax. Don't force it. Just feel. She took his hands in hers, and Alan felt that now familiar warmth in his mind. But this time, instead of resisting, he let himself sink into it. Suddenly, it was as if a door had opened. He gasped as he felt Rhea's presence more fully, her amusement at his frustration, her pride in his progress, and underneath it all, a deep affection that made his heart race. Rhea, he breathed, opening his eyes to find her smiling brilliantly at him. You did it, she exclaimed. Oh, Alan, I knew you could. The rush of shared emotion was overwhelming. Without thinking, Alan leaned forward and kissed her. For a moment, it was as if the universe had shrunk to just the two of them, minds and bodies intertwined. When they finally pulled apart, Alan felt dizzy with sensation. I'm sorry, he stammered. I don't know what came over me. Rhea laughed, a sound that seemed to resonate in Alan's very soul. Don't apologize. That was illuminating. As the days passed, Alan found himself changing in ways he never expected. His newfound telepathic abilities, while still weak compared to most Nudians, opened up a whole new way of experiencing the world. He began to sense the underlying emotions and intentions of those around him, adding depth to every interaction. More significantly, his perspective on Nudian society underwent a profound shift. What had once seemed shockingly immodest now felt natural, even beautiful. He marveled at the openness and honesty of a culture where nothing, not bodies, not thoughts, not feelings, was hidden. His relationship with Rhea deepened as well. Their mental connection grew stronger with each passing day, allowing them to share thoughts and emotions with increasing ease. Alan found himself captivated by her brilliant mind, her infectious curiosity, and her boundless compassion. One evening, as they walked through a bioluminescent garden, hand in hand, Rhea turned to Alan with a serious expression. Alan, she said softly, I hope you know how much you've come to mean to me. Your presence here, your willingness to learn and adapt. It's been truly remarkable. Alan felt a surge of affection through their mental link. Rhea, I feel the same way. You've opened my eyes to so much. I never imagined I could feel this connected to someone. Rhea's smile was radiant. I'm so glad, but Alan, there's something we need to discuss. Your mission here is nearing its end. Soon, you'll be expected to return to Earth with your report. Have you given any thought to what that means? The question hit Alan like a physical blow. In the whirlwind of new experiences and emotions, he had almost forgotten the temporary nature of his assignment. The thought of leaving Nudia, of leaving Rhea, felt like contemplating the amputation of a limb. I don't know, he admitted, his voice hoarse. The idea of going back to Earth, of returning to a world of barriers and isolation, it feels wrong now. Rhea squeezed his hand, sending a wave of understanding and support through their link. I understand. But Alan, you have to consider the bigger picture. Your experiences here could be the key to fostering true understanding between our peoples, and perhaps to bringing some of our openness back to Earth. Alan nodded slowly, his mind racing with possibilities. You're right, of course. But, Rhea, the thought of leaving you. Before he could finish the thought, a commotion in the distance caught their attention. Shouts and the sound of breaking glass echoed through the night air. Rhea's eyes widened in alarm. That's coming from the direction of the council chambers. Alan, I have a bad feeling about this. Without another word, they took off running towards the source of the disturbance. As they rounded a corner, they saw a scene of chaos. A group of Nudians, their bodies painted with the now familiar patterns of the purists, were engaged in a heated confrontation with council security forces. At the center of it all stood Kraz, his face contorted with rage. "No more compromise!" he shouted. "No more corruption of our sacred ways! The alien must leave or we will remove him by force!" Alan felt a chill run down his spine as Kraz's gaze locked onto him. In that moment he realized that his journey on Nudia was far from over, and that the true test of his transformation was yet to come. Alan's heart pounded as he assessed the chaotic scene before him. The purists, led by the enraged Kraz, were advancing on the council chambers, their painted bodies a stark contrast to the panicked crowd of ordinary Nudians. "We need to stop this," Alan said, turning to Rhea, "before someone gets hurt." Rhea nodded, her face set with determination. "Agreed. But how? The purists won't listen to reason, and they certainly won't listen to you." A wild idea struck Alan. Maybe they don't need to listen. Maybe they need to feel. Without further explanation, Alan strode forward directly into the path of the advancing purists. He could hear Rhea's alarmed thoughts in his mind, but he pushed on. "Kraz!" Alan shouted, his voice cutting through the din. "Is this really what you want? Violence? Destruction?" Kraz's eyes narrowed as he spotted Alan. "You! This is all your fault, alien. Your corrupt influence ends now." As Kraz lunged forward, Alan did something that surprised everyone, including himself. He began to undress. "What are you doing?" Kraz sputtered, momentarily thrown off balance. "Embracing your culture," Alan replied calmly, stepping out of the last of his clothing. "Isn't this what you wanted? For me to conform to your ways?" A hush fell over the crowd as Alan stood there, naked and vulnerable, yet somehow radiating an aura of calm authority. "Now," Alan continued, "let's talk, not with words but with minds and hearts open." Closing his eyes, Alan reached out with his newfound telepathic abilities. He focused on projecting his experiences on Nudia, the initial shock and discomfort, the gradual understanding, and finally, the profound appreciation for Nudian culture and values. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then, slowly, Alan felt minds opening to him. Not just Kraz and the purists, but the council members, the security forces, and the onlookers. A web of shared consciousness began to form. Rhea's familiar presence joined him, amplifying and refining the connection. Together, they created a tapestry of emotions and memories, showing the beauty of cultural exchange and the power of understanding. For several long moments, the entire plaza was silent, everyone lost in the shared vision. When Alan finally opened his eyes, he saw tears streaming down Kraz's face. I had no idea," Kraz whispered. "The depth of your transformation, the sincerity of your appreciation for our ways. I was wrong about you, Alan of Earth." The tension in the air dissipated as purists and council members alike began to lower their guard, many of them visibly moved by the experience. Just as Alan was beginning to feel a sense of triumph, a new commotion arose. A Nudian messenger burst into the plaza, waving a communication device. "Ambassador Alan," the messenger called out. "Urgent transmission from Earth." Alan's stomach dropped. In all the excitement, he had almost forgotten about his home planet. With a sense of trepidation, he accepted the device. The holographic image of his superior, Admiral Chen, flickered to life. The Admiral's eyes widened as he took in Alan's current state of undress. "Good God, man!" Chen exclaimed. "What in the blazes is going on there?" Alan straightened his posture, refusing to show embarrassment. "Admiral Chen, I can explain. Nudian culture has some unique aspects that I've been fully immersing myself into—" "Save it," Chen cut him off. "We've been getting reports about this clothing-optional society, and the conservative factions back home are in an uproar. They're demanding we sever all ties with Nudia immediately and bring you home for deprogramming." Alan felt a surge of anger. "Deprogramming? Admiral, with all due respect, that's absurd. The Nudians are an advanced, peaceful society with much to offer in terms of cultural and technological exchange." Chen's expression softened slightly. "I understand that, Alan, but you have to see this from our perspective. The images we've received, well, let's just say they don't paint a flattering picture of interstellar diplomacy." "Then let me show you the full picture," Alan insisted. "Give me a chance to explain the true value of Nudian culture to Earth's leaders." The Admiral stroked his chin thoughtfully. "And how do you propose to do that? I can't exactly bring the Joint Chiefs to Nudia for a nudist retreat." A spark of inspiration hit Alan. He turned to Rhea, communicating his idea through their mental link. She nodded enthusiastically. "Admiral," Alan said, turning back to the hologram, "what if I told you we could bridge the gap between our worlds without anyone having to leave their planet?" Chen raised an eyebrow. "I'm listening." Over the next few hours, Alan worked feverishly with Rhea and the Nudian Council to set up what he called a mental embassy. Using a combination of Nudian telepathic technology and Earth's quantum communication systems, they established a link that would allow for direct mind-to-mind contact across the vast distance of space. As the connection stabilized, Alan took a deep breath. "Are you ready?" he asked Rhea, squeezing her hand. She smiled warmly. "With you, always." Together they reached out across the stars, touching the minds of Earth's leaders. Alan felt a momentary resistance, then a flood of shock, curiosity, and wonder as the humans on the other side opened themselves to the experience. Through the mental link, Alan and Rhea guided Earth's representatives on a tour of Nudian society. They shared the beauty of Nudia's landscapes, the depth of its philosophy, and the warmth of its people. They demonstrated how Nudian openness, both physical and mental, led to a society with less conflict, greater empathy, and more rapid technological advancement. Hours passed like minutes as the exchange of ideas and emotions flowed freely. When they finally disconnected, Alan felt drained but exhilarated. Admiral Chen's hologram flickered back to life, his expression one of awe. "Alan, I don't know what to say. That was unlike anything I've ever experienced." Alan grinned. "I told you there was more to Nudia than met the eye, Admiral." Chen nodded, a hint of a smile playing at his lips. "Indeed, I'll need time to process all of this, but I think it's safe to say that severing ties with Nudia is off the table. In fact, I believe we may be on the cusp of the most significant cultural exchange in human history." As the implications of Chen's words sank in, Alan felt a wave of relief and excitement wash over him. He had done it. He had bridged the gap between two worlds, paving the way for a new era of interstellar cooperation. But amidst the triumph, a nagging question remained. Alan turned to Rhea, his heart heavy. "I suppose this means I'll have to return to Earth," he said softly, "to help facilitate the exchange program." Rhea's eyes shimmered with emotion. "You could, or, Alan prompted, hardly daring to hope. "Or you could stay here with me," Rhea finished. "We could establish a school for cultural understanding right here on Nudia, a place where humans and Nudians could learn from each other, face to face, or mind to mind." Alan's heart soared at the idea. He turned back to Admiral Chen's hologram. "Admiral, what would you think about me remaining on Nudia as a permanent liaison? I could oversee the exchange program from this end, ensuring smooth integration for human visitors." Chen stroked his chin thoughtfully. "It's an unorthodox proposal, but then again, this entire situation is unprecedented. If you're willing to take on that responsibility, I think it could work." And so, in the months that followed, Alan found himself at the center of a whirlwind of activity. The first group of human students arrived on Nudia, their eyes wide with wonder and trepidation. Alan and Rhea, now officially partners in both life and work, welcomed them to the newly established Interstellar Academy of Cultural Understanding. As Alan watched the humans tentatively interacting with their Nudian hosts, he couldn't help but smile. It wasn't always smooth sailing. There were plenty of awkward moments, cultural faux pas, and hilarious misunderstandings. But with each passing day, he saw barriers breaking down and genuine connections forming. One evening, as he and Rhea stood on the balcony of their home, overlooking the shimmering city, Alan felt a profound sense of contentment. "You know," he said, wrapping an arm around Rhea's waist, "when I first arrived here, I never imagined this is where I'd end up." Rhea laughed, her mind brushing against his with a wave of affection. "What, you mean naked on an alien world, married to a blue-skinned telepath and running an interstellar school for nudists?" Alan chuckled. "When you put it like that, it does sound a bit absurd." "Perhaps," Rhea agreed, "but it also sounds like the beginning of a grand adventure." As they stood there, watching Nudia's 3 suns set in a blaze of color, Alan reflected on his journey. He had come to this world as an outsider, bound by the restrictions and prejudices of his upbringing.